evening, let's bow before the Lord. Father God, how we thank you, how we bless you, how we honor you, oh God. Thank you for this opportunity we have to gather in your house of worship. Lord, thank you as we gather around your word this evening. Thank you, God, you are in our midst. Lord, thank you for your anointing, for your just the touch of your spirit. Lord, for those of us that are a little tired this evening, thank you that you give us solution. So Lord, as we open your word, thank you that you are a teacher, our guide, our strength. Amen. Amen. This is our 10th lesson in our series on the fruit of the Spirit, letting others see Jesus in you. And this lesson tonight is the last fruit. I should say, I think we started out earlier and didn't quite always make it clear. Unlike the gifts of the Spirit, that there's 9 separate ones, all listed as the fruit of the Spirit, not the fruits, plural. They're not on the gifts of the Spirit that he mentions in 1 Corinthians 12, the word of wisdom, word of knowledge, faith, healing, miracles, tongues, interpretation. Each one of those is separate. And one person may have one, the other person may have another. The fruit of the Spirit is different because all of us, ready, are called to have all 9. You can't say, well, I want love, joy, but I don't feel anything about having patience and temperance, and I don't want all that. So when we look at this last fruit, I'm going. I know we on YouTube, maybe, and I'm praying word don't get out too much. This is the one fruit I'm going to tell you. I'm not going to lie. True confession. I think I struggle with this one more than anything. And I think this is one of those fruit. I don't know if I wish Paul had kind of put this one first. He put it first and get it over with. But when you look at this one, self-control often goes with meekness. Because meekness, as we said last week, is strength that's under control. Self-control, as we're going to see tonight, is something that works, lets all the other gifts work together. It says, but the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, long-suffering. Thank you, sir. Kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. Against such, there is no law. I like.
Is it flying?
Clicker is.
All right.
Get that same fast.
All right.
I like what's listed there from the Message translation. It says, but what happens when we live God's way? He brings gifts into our lives, much the same way that fruit appears in an orchard. Things like affection for others, exuberance about life, serenity. We develop a willingness to stick with things, a sense of compassion in the heart, a conviction that a basic holiness permeates things and people. We find ourselves involved in loyal commitments, not needing to force our way in life, able to marshal and direct our energies wisely. That's what the Message translation. And I'll admit that's a modern paraphrase, but at the end, what the other translations say, traditional King James says temperate, New King James says self-control. I like the Message says, we're able to marshal and direct our energies wisely. You have to do it. And we said, as we said in, I guess it is, or did you click it, or is that me?
Yes, you got it.
As we said, as we start our series, those inward fruits, love, joy, peace, those are on the inside. And as we said before, we'll say it again, it's not developed. Apple tree doesn't have to think about producing fruit. It's in it, and if it's right, it will produce the fruit. That's the inward. The outward actions, long-suffering, gentleness, or kindness, goodness, those are outward actions we have toward other people. the inward display, the actions of the heart, faithfulness, meekness, or humility, and self-control. I saw, as we look at self-control tonight, I found this article in Psychology Today. It says, at this time of the year, meaning Christmas time, when many people around the world celebrate Christmas, we are often reminded of the importance of self-control in showing restraint and moderation with the amount of alcohol we imbibe, the amount of food we consume, and the amount of money we spend. Perhaps the reason that self-control is held in such high esteem is because it seems so difficult to maintain for any length of time. The stories of legions of dieters who lose enormous amounts of weight through hard work and perseverance only to regain that weight a year later. Why is self-control so difficult? And the writer of this article says, on the face of it, it seems fairly straightforward to say no to brownie or select soda water rather than beer, or to drive straight past the shop where you normally buy cigarettes. Okay, this ain't a Christian thing, okay, so we're not going there. Lots of people do these sorts of things all the time. Why then is self-control even required? And the article goes on to state, people to say both no and yes at the same time about the same thing. So, and the author had given an example about a person who was trying to say yes or no with eating something. So Erica is left in the position of somehow making herself resist. That's where self-control comes in. Self-control is the name, it seems to be the name we give to those situations where people find a way to make themselves focus on one outcome, lunch without the brownie, despite the fact that they want the opposite outcome, the lunch with the brownie. Another name for this situation is internal conflict. And that's it, ready? We got an internal conflict going on. And you think about it. You want it, you know what's right. But what's the problem? You want the other. And you think what happens. Think what happens. Right? I'm glad you said that, Mimi. Exhibit A. Right? I mean, okay, I can, with what's been going on in the news the past 3 weeks, I can put about 15, 20 people up there. But think about it. You got President of the United States couldn't control himself. Right? Bill Cosby, who you know, some still have he put Huxtable character. You know, oh, he was so, you know, the Jello pudding man. Harvey Weinstein, which is like, dude, what on earth were you thinking? Yeah, they all involve sex already. Really what it is a lack of self-control. Now, we can dismiss it and we can just say that's unsaved folks, right? But Christians aren't immune because I still remember back in the 80s when Jimmy Swaggart gave his, I like Jimmy Swaggart. He was a good preacher. And you know, I still remember watching that tearful confession of what he had done, right? And my Lord, I've sinned, and it was good, except the only thing is that he had some repentance on TV, but his actions didn't change. Because he still, you know, as that you fall again, right? And you think about Jim and Tammy Faye Baker, right? Jim Baker goes to jail. But when you have somebody with the air-conditioned doghouse, I mean, the gold-plated fixture, that it's the oculus. It's, you couldn't say no. And you may not know the individual at the bottom. And I think that's what is happening. His name is Zachary Tim. He was a pastor in Florida. He died in a hotel room in New York City of an overdose of cocaine and heroin. Anointed pastor.
Big time.
Built a big church in Central Florida, and he couldn't overcome conviction. And his wife, I was reading an article just to make sure I had my facts straight. And his wife said this, and I'm quoting now from this article, because she wrote a book about her experiences. She said, I had no idea it was so much, meaning his drug use, his infidelity. She said, I'll put it this way. It's one thing to have a struggle. It's another thing to have a lifestyle. Added Reba Kims, who founded New Destiny Christian Center in Apopka, Florida in 1996 with her then husband, Zachary. And she says this, and I think this was a telling quote. She says, when it's a struggle, there is grace. But when it's a lifestyle, there is no grace. See, self-control, or the lack thereof, becomes a question of a lifestyle. And look as we go further. I use this definition. And I love the little picture of little girl with them cookies because that's struggle. Self-control is the quality that allows you to stop yourself from doing things you want to do, but that might not be in your best interest. You can stop something that you know is not right. You know, all these men that's been charged and with sexual harassment, and some of the stuff that comes down, you can't tell when you don't know that foolishness wasn't right. But somehow you lack control, and it comes from self-control. Amazing thing is that the word that's used, agrigeria, it's only used 3 times in our New Testament. Here in 2 Corinthians, in Galatians 5, in 1 Peter, and in Acts. And really what it means is the word, it comes from the word kratos. It means strength, one holding control or holding yourself in. You turn in your Bibles to Genesis chapter 4. Genesis chapter 4. You there? Genesis chapter 4, look at verse 6. Now this is, Cain and Abel had brought an offering to the Lord. God accepted Abel's offering. Cain, he rejected it. And look at verse 6. It says, so the Lord said to Cain, ready? Why are you so angry? And why has your countenance fallen? If you do well, will you not be accepted? And notice what God says. And if you do not do well, what happens? Signs blind at the sins crouching at the door. And its desire is for you, but you got to rule over it. I think traditional King James doesn't say master it. You got to master it. You got to rule what? Because it's there. It's in your members. It's ready to raise its ugly head. And what one writer put it, it says, in some ways, one might consider this virtue the most important. For without self-control, the works of the flesh cannot be overcome. It's just there. He also says, for without self-control, the other elements of the fruit of the Spirit will not be evident. Because if you don't have self-control, think about it. You're ready to choke somebody, right? And sometimes you do. But look how it's used. Like I said, the word is only used 3 places. Well, 4 places if you count the 2 Peter because it's used twice. It says, now Paul is talking to Felix. He says, now when he reasoned about righteousness, self-control, and the judgment to come, Felix was afraid and answered, go away from me now. When I have a convenient time, I will call for you. Apparently, Paul was preaching good, and Felix got under conviction and said, okay, fine, go somewhere with that. Go somewhere with that. Look at 2 Peter chapter 1. Starting at verse 5 is on the screen. But also for this very reason, giving all diligence, add to your faith virtue. To virtue, knowledge. To knowledge what? Self-control. To self-control, perseverance. And to perseverance, godliness. To godliness, brotherly kindness. To brotherly kindness, love. These are some of the same fruits of the Spirit. Ready? And they start stepping on one another. Almost like going up a step. You start off with diligence. You got to be committed, right? And then you add to your faith virtue. Virtue goes to knowledge. Knowledge, stuff, you start building on that. When we are called, one writer said, to give all diligence to these things. Ready? Working in partnership with God to add to them. Ready? Because the hard part is when God has to force, when you start growing, it gets difficult. Think about some of us now, right? Think about years ago when you just got saved. You could get by with some stuff that you wouldn't dare think about doing that, right? You didn't know any better, and God had to grow you. Look at this example. We see an example in Jesus on self-control. I like it, and when he was arrested in Matthew. It says in verse 50, it says, when they came and laid hands on Jesus, he took him. And suddenly one of those who were with Jesus stretched out his hand and drew his sword, struck the servant of the high priest, and cut off his ear. Now we know that's Peter. Ain't nobody else backing Peter. And notice what Jesus said. He says, put your sword in its place, for all who take the sword will perish by the sword. Or do you not think, and this is the operative, that I cannot now pray to my Father, and he will provide me with more than 12 legions of angels? How then could the scriptures be fulfilled that must happen? Notice, Jesus' self-control was, he could have been like Peter and say, Peter, throw me tonight. Right? Call down the angels. And Peter looking back on this situation, because Matthew, apparently it's believed Matthew's source for many of his gospel is Peter. So it's like he just says one of those who were with him. John mentions his name because they always had a fight going on. But look what Peter says in 1 Peter chapter 2. Notice what Peter says, who committed no sin, nor was deceit found in his mouth. Who, and I like this, when he was reviled, what?
Did not revile in return.
Did not revile in return. When he suffered, what? He didn't threaten, but committed himself to him who judges righteously. He said, no, you know what? I ain't going to go there with you. And sometimes that's almost like I said, self-control often works with meekness. You're not going to go there. You have to reflect back, and you have to say, no, this is how I'm not going to respond. That's a good example. Look at a bad example. Luke 9. Now it came to pass, when the time had come for him to be received up, he steadfastly, meaning Jesus, set his face to go to Jerusalem, and sent messengers before his face. And as they went, they entered the village of the Samaritans to prepare him. But they did not receive him, because his face was set for the journey to Jerusalem. And when his disciples James and John saw this, they said, Lord, do you want us to command fire to come down from heaven and consume them just like Elijah did? It's like, God, let's kill him. Let's wipe him out. And what did you, because see, in Mark 3, I believe it is, when Mark starts giving the list of disciples, when he gets to James and John, he calls them the sons of thunder. They're like, no. These but look what Jesus said. But he turned and rebuked them and said, you do not know what manner of spirit you are. For the Son of Man did not come to destroy men's lives, but to save them. And they went to another village. James was like, let's wipe them out. Let's call down fire. Let's kill them. Right? And no, hey y'all need to have some control. I didn't come to be killing folks. I came to be saving stuff. So here's the question. Why is self-control so difficult? Ready? I like this. Bought 4 boxes of Girl Scout cookies. And they go. I had an incident at work today with holiday time. Folks always bring goodies out, and somebody bought a box of See's chocolate. Now I'm not a chocolate person. I can walk past it, don't bother me. But it was at the reception desk, and the receptionist was saying, "Have some candy." I said, "No, I don't want any." She said, "I'm just gonna take." I said, "I. You don't need that chocolate." Now she went home because her sugar level was through the roof. Oh. She said, well, because she almost passed out at work. They sent her home. Her A1C was at 13. I said, "Baby, you almost in diabetic shock." And they said, and she's like, and I'm like, "Well, I'm just gonna have a little bite." No, I said, I took it. I no. Yes, I will pray for healing. Right? But I ain't gonna pray for you. Oh, my sugar's at 30. No. See, because here it is. Self-control. Why is it so difficult? Because self-control, there's going to be 3 areas that we're going to look at very quickly. Right? One is my flesh. Right? Biggest problem. My flesh. Specifically, ready? This little few ounce thing. And number 3 is that there's a constant battle. See, if I beat you, I want to beat you and be done and go. Right? I don't want to beat and have you come back tomorrow. But see, it comes a time I don't want to continue fighting. So let's look at number 1, my flesh. Here we go. Ready? Number 1 is my fallen nature. And we've looked at Romans 7 so many times. Look what Paul says in verse 16. He says, "If then I do what I will not to do, I agree with the law that it is good. For now it is no longer I do it, but sin that dwells in me." In verse 18, he says, "For I know that in me, that is in my flesh, what? Nothing good, nothing. For to will is present with me, but how to perform that what is good, I do not find. For the good that I will to do, I do not. But the evil I will not to do, that I practice. Now, if I do what I will not to do, it is no longer I who does it, but sin that dwells in me." See, there's that article we noted earlier. There's that internal conflict. You know what to do, right? Anybody ever? It's like you have said, "I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do this." Right? As we said last week, sometimes some people in your life, they got the combo to your emotions. Right? And they will dial up, and there you go ballistic. And you said, "No, I'm not going to let you do that." Because Paul said, ready? "For to will is present with me, but how to perform what is good, I don't find. For the good that I will to do, I do not do. But the evil that I will not to do, that," ready? I practice. I try not to, but it don't work. Look at Galatians chapter 5. Notice, Paul says, "Then I say, walk in the Spirit, and you shall not fulfill the lust of the flesh. For the flesh does what? Lust against the Spirit, and the Spirit against the flesh. And these are contrary to one another, so that you do not do the things that you would." See, there's a war going on between my flesh and my spirit. I must constantly fight this battle. And I'm going to tell you something, ready? You just can't pray it away. It's not a thing of, well, when I get older and mature, I won't have that problem.
Oh,
No,
yes,
it's like, no, your flesh just matured. Come on, you know, when you were a little kid, you just stole the cookies. But when you get older, you get sneaky at stealing the cookies. You be like, well, you know, I got money now. I can go buy the cookies. And a friend of mine has said, the 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 boss, his wife put him on a diet, and so he would have breakfast. He would eat it, and he would go, and she had this thing, and when he got to work, he always asked his secretary, so he didn't buy it. He asked his secretary, could you go down to the cafeteria and get me my bacon and egg sandwich? And he did. She said he went, he got the sandwich, until one time his wife came up to the office, and right as she was going up, and she coming in, it's like, what do you have? I said, your husband asked for bacon, and she said, give it to me, I will take it into him. See, you know what to do, but as you got older, you just got sneakier in what you're trying to do. Right? You know, you think about it. Your flesh says one thing. Several years ago, sitting there, we went to a marriage retreat. And the first night on this marriage retreat, the speaker said, you got a homework assignment. It was a weekend retreat. You got a homework assignment. This was about 10 o'clock at night. Okay? When we finished out, it was like Friday night. Go home, and tonight you cannot say one negative thing to your spouse. And tomorrow morning when we start, we're going to ask, and you're going to have to stand up if you made it from 10 o'clock to about 8 o'clock without saying one negative thing. Right? And I keep thinking, how hard is that? You go home, you go back up to the hotel room, and you go to sleep. And the next morning, you get up, you go down to breakfast, you just say, good morning, how you doing, good night, go. And the number of people that next morning, when they said, now, if you didn't say something, but your spouse did, don't be sitting down, just because you don't want to embarrass. If everybody was all had to be accountable for themselves. And then next, on the number of people, they say, okay, if you got through the night without saying something, they're gonna stand up. And at the table, we're at, I stood up, Cindy stood up, and I'm like, who's so hard about that? And this one guy said, I did it all night. She told me, and I said, oh, see, right? Because your flesh, I'm not gonna let that pass, and it gets you in trouble. But look at specifically what James says in verse 1 of James 1:26. If anyone among you thinks he is religious and does not bridle, that put your tongue under control, but deceives his own heart, this one's religion is what? It's useless. If you can't, and we, come on, we that little tongue, it can start fire. You remember that phrase we used to have years ago? Sticks and stones may break my bones, but names will never hurt me. That's the biggest lie somebody ever told. That is a lie from the pit. Because if you break my arm, I go to Henry Mayo, I can get it set, I can put a cast on it, it will heal. But if you say something to me that wounds me, you can be dead, gone, buried in the grave rotten. And I can remember, when my mama told me that she wished I wasn't born. That was the biggest mistake in her life. You will replay it. And you think that control, James said, if you can't bridle your tongue, you deceive it. Because he says in chapter 3, verse 7, for every kind of beast and bird, of reptile, and creature of the sea is tamed and has been tamed by mankind. But no man can tame the tongue. He says it is an unruly evil full of what? Deadly poison. With it we bless God and Father, and with it we curse men who have been made in the similitude of God. Out of the same mouth proceeds what?
Cursing.
Blessing and
Cursing.
cursing. And James says, my brethren, these things ought not to be. The implication is that this tongue is not tamed, and you got to work at it. Because notice what it says in Ecclesiastes. I have it from the New Living Translation. Solomon says, as you enter the house of God, keep your ears open and your mouth shut. It is evil to make mindless offering to God. Don't make rash promises and don't be hasty in bringing matters before God. After all, God is in heaven and you are here on earth. So Solomon said what? Let your words be few. Ready? Don't. You have to exercise control. Oh God, how many? Oh God, if you get me out of this, I will never go back. Now it's like, God, get me out of this. I ain't gonna make no other promises. God, just get me out of this. When you go to church, just don't. Oh God, I'll go on the mission field. No, sometimes, ready? He said, let your words be few. Exercise some control. Because here we go, ready? There is a constant battle. Because look what it says. I saw this verse in Proverbs, and it really worked on me all week. It says, whoever has no rule over his own spirit is like a city broken down without walls. No rule over your own spirit. Because if you think back then, a city needed the wall for protection. You think of Jericho. Jericho got it when the wall fell. Think of people in the news lately that had no rule over their spirit. And that's all it is. You have no control. And Proverbs 16:32, he who is slow to anger is better than the mighty, and he who rules his spirit than he who takes a city. Discipline. There's a little difference between discipline and self-control. See, discipline, quite frankly, is a habit that we do continually. Oftentimes without thinking about it. Right? Brushing your teeth is a discipline. Right? How you go to work. Most times we don't bury our roof. That's a discipline. Some folks, you go to the gym Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 5:45. You got your class or whatever. It's the discipline. Self-control is when you're facing something and you make a choice. You're facing something, then you have to make a choice about it. And if you don't do it, you got that broken down wall. You don't do it. So the last few minutes. Here we go. How to develop self-control. Because here's the hard part. Ready? Number one, you have to have a desire to keep your flesh under control. That's basic. You gotta want to. And here we go. Ready? I said, not a type A excuse. It's just your personality. Not it's just the family trait. All of us Winstons are like that. And the last thing we'll look at in a minute is just because it's acceptable doesn't mean it's good for you. See, when we talk about a type A excuse, folks that say, I'm just a type A. They hard driving, they're yellers, this needs to be done right. Right? That becomes their personality. But you got a desire to keep that under control. Why? Because it becomes your training it to do what I should. Otherwise, I fear that after preaching to others, I myself might become disqualified. I have to discipline. It's not just something natural. I've said this before, I'll say it again. I noticed this many years ago, about 2008, when David Neville, who used to remember our church, Olympic gold medal winner now, in the 400, well, bronze medal in the 400 and gold in the relay, when he and his wife were at our house for Easter dinner. And I threw it out on Easter. Something good. And he said, "Oh, David, you like macaroni and cheese?" I love mac and cheese. I made a peach cobbler, I think, the whole thing. And he didn't eat none of it. And because he said, this was like in April. This was April, late March, April. He said, the Olympic trials are due. He said, I love it. I don't have time to get it off of it. He had been training for years to go to those Beijing games. And it's like, now, he had discipline, and I'm going to tell you, I'm like, well, I'll just have a tablespoon. Right? Really, that's the lie. Ready? Everything in moderation. Everything in moderation. Do you realize rat poison is 90% corn? It's the 10% that's the arsenic that's a little deadly. It's moderated. It's down to 10%. Right? Most of it, otherwise the rat wouldn't eat. He wants the corn, but it's that 10% that's masking flavor. You pause it. You have to discipline. I've got the desire to keep my flesh under control. And notice, look at 1 Corinthians 6:12. Paul says, all things are lawful for me, but not all things are profitable. All things are lawful for me, but I will not be brought under the power. I mean, just because it's acceptable doesn't mean it is good. Whatever I do has an effect on me. I've got the desire to keep my flesh under control. Right? Sometimes it means saying no to something that's not wrong. I was listening to a message from a preacher I like, and he said he was talking about fasting and devote yourself to God. He said, how many of you get up in the morning and the first thing you do is check your social media? Facebook, Instagram. How many people like your post? How many people responded? How many Twitter followers you have? And you think, he said, there's nothing wrong with it. Nothing wrong with Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. But I can't pray in the morning because I'm seeing what's next for me. I can't pray. Some folks that you have to say, they are surly until they get their morning cup of coffee. That's your flesh. That's a lack of self-control. That until you get your Starbucks, come back to bed. Well, nothing wrong with the coffee. But if it gets to that the coffee is running you, rather than you using the coffee, it's a problem. Look at the next. Ready? Discover the area of your weakness. Right? And using your food as the food. But it's not just that. Ready? The little bit something. Right? What's the area of your weakness? And sometimes when we talk about communion, when we read from 1 Corinthians 11, Paul said, let a man examine himself. Let's tell the truth. I don't want to examine myself because sometimes I know I'm wrong. When I examine myself, then it's like, yeah, now you got to correct it. See, if there are triggers in your life, you got to not have them. If you're trying to live holy and you're single, don't put on Luther. Don't put on something that's going. I wish I had somebody here. Oh, turn down the light, and you start, and before you know it, and the devil will say, "Oh, everybody got that." You can see, you can forget. You don't do it now. If that is not your season, put Luther in the, it's like, okay, block that on the iPad and keep going. Right? If I know eating is a problem, I better not have all those things that the chips and buy the cookies and it's like my coworker with the candy front. I don't know who bought it. And they put it always up there reception. You may have to say, this is going down to the 11th floor. I'm not right now. I am not that strong. You have to discover the area of your weakness, and then look at the third one. Ready? Use the spiritual tools available to you. Sometimes you ready. You have fasting and praying. That is exercising self-control. Sometimes in your thing, I don't mean just, we talk about fasting, we always talk about just food. No. Sometimes fasting is you can turn off something that you can say, you know what? I'm not going on Facebook this week. I guarantee, turn off the TV, right? And instead of watching all of the topics, I'm gonna spend this 30 minutes. I'm gonna spend this hour praying. Because all of a sudden in your fashion, you always watch Scandal. What's gonna happen? What are you trying? What? Yeah, tape it. You can watch it again. But ready? If you don't use your spiritual tools, and sometimes that tool is, quite frankly, just an accountability partner. Somebody that will call you up and say, Cornell, how you doing? How you doing? And that you can call up and say, dude, you got to pray for me. You got to pray for me because it's hot. It's hot right now, and I'm getting ready to sin, and I know I'm getting ready to sin, and I don't want to do it. I'm about to lose control. Somebody that is close enough in your life that will come over and rescue you from you. Because sometimes, let's tell the truth, here in the Christian world, we've gotten to be so how you doing? I'm just blessing the Lord. Hallelujah. When's the last time you said, how you doing, Lord? I'm struggling this week. I'm about to choke somebody. I'm about to hurt somebody. She came by my office once more. She came by and quit thinking I can't fall. Because if you think you can't fall, you tumbling down. All of us have areas that don't tempt us. I'm allergic to peanuts. So folks come in, like I said, I really don't like chocolate. So when you come in with all these peanut brittle and all this stuff, folks just, I look at it and say, don't bother me, because I know if I do it, I'm going to start wheezing and mouth going to be closing. And right? down some fried chicken. I'd be bowing down ready to say, great as Nebuchadnezzar our God. Really? Why? Because that's a trick. I know that's so you know what? A couple times when you're hungry, I know there's an Albertsons right across the street, right down from where I live. And I know if I get there by 8 o'clock, they'll still have the chicken, the chicken wings, the chicken tenders. And you know what? I know for a fact, if you having issues, if I'm having issues on that day, don't go to Albertsons, go to Ralph's. I don't like that chicken. So don't go in there. Come on. If you know you have a hard time exercising, don't pretend. Don't pretend, right? I have to use the tool. Lord, I'm gonna have to pray, and I'm gonna have to go by. Lord, I'm not gonna do it because sometimes, as Jesus said, this kind only goes out by prayer and fasting. This is something. If I'm going to develop this fruit, and this is ready, let the control that Jesus had be in me. I've got to do it. And the last one is ready. Reckon your members dead to sin, but alive to God. It's ready. My flesh does not have to do this. Tell you, no, it doesn't. I can be committed to God. I can master the situation. But notice what Paul said in Romans 6, beginning verse 6, he says, knowing this, that our old man was what?
Crucified.
It was crucified with him, that the body of sin might be done away with, that we should no longer be slaves of sin. For he who has died has been freed from sin. When Paul noted this conflict in his flesh, he mentioned the old man, right? That old person, that pre-regenerated person has been crucified, ready? So that brother man died. Don't go trying to resurrect him and say, well, he's not that bad. If I dress him up real good. Sometimes we Americans have this thing, we like to beautify death. We dress you up, we make up you, we put flowers around, we make it pretty, and instead of saying, you know what, they did. And that's what it is with your flesh. You gotta make it dead. You got to crucify this old man. As Paul said in Romans 12, present my body a living sacrifice. Right? It's that making sure you have to desire to keep your flesh under control. You have to discover that weakness. Use the tools available to you and reckon that on baby. And then God starts. You'll start mastering something. Years ago, when I was well overweight, and a buddy of mine, Gary said, Winston, come on. And I'm like, Gary, no, I'm not. No, come on. He said, we're just going to start walking. And he made me go to the park, and they got a track. We just going to walk the track. Now I'll walk with you fine. He said, how are we going to run? He said, Jerry, I don't run. He said, I'll tell you what, we'll just run the curves. And we'll walk the straightaway. Come on! He's barking orders like a drill sergeant. So I ran the curve. He said, that wasn't so bad, was it? No. And I walked the curve. And then, you walk, then you get to the curve again. Come on, let's go! So we have to run the curve, walk straight. Do 4 times around the track is a mile. Right? Then we said, no, we're going to do 8 times. We're going to do 2 miles. And you go in, and after a while, we would run the curve. And then he said, you quit when you tie. We'll quit when you say quit. So we start at the curve. So got the curve, and I got halfway down the street. Not halfway. I can't do it. But then have curbs. So we ran it again, you know, and it only took, it took a month or so that I could actually run the whole track instead of just the curb. And that's how it is with self-control. Just work on this, work on the curve. Don't worry about some of this other stuff, because sometimes you want to make sure, I got it, you know. I talked to a person that was a smoker, trying to quit. Didn't like it, but I said, well, you know what? It's okay. God knows your struggle, and He will help you with it. You know, and you get a plan to say, you know what? Okay, I won't have a cigarette at this particular time. Where I always had one at, you know, at my break time. I won't have one. And after a while, you start to miss. And that's what God is looking for, to develop that in you. Because I could do this. I could glorify you in this area. And make you. Amen. I'm going to stop there. Any questions? Any questions? All right, I wanted to say before I go, and I really mean, thank you. Thank you. I say this every year, and I mean this every year. Thank you for allowing me this awesome privilege of teaching every week. This is our last Bible study video. I want to thank Pastor Harper just for allowing me to do this every week. I'm gonna tell you, it's a joy, and oftentimes I have worked hard. And I'm like, oh, I'm tired. And you know what? I say, God has matured me. And you know, sometimes I wonder, it's like, am I connecting? So I thank you. I really do, for the bottom of my heart. I thank you for this privilege. And we're gonna resume January 3rd. And you know, I have gone back a couple things. But if you get a chance between now and January 3rd, there's two books I want to read. I'm saying right now, we're going to look at Nehemiah and talk about rebuilding, repairing, renewing the glorious places in our lives. I start to call it my right New Year's resolution. So if you can't read the book of Nehemiah, or read the book of Judges, because I got two letters out. I started off with Judges, now to Nehemiah, and so I'm going to be praying between now and the next 2 weeks. Thank you, sister. To see what where the Lord will lead us. So if you can read both, because if I don't start in if I start in Nehemiah, Lord willing, we'll go to Judges. If I start in Judges, then we'll get Nehemiah. Amen. Amen. Before we go, thank you for listening. Before we go, one brief announcement. If you're available tomorrow, as we said Sunday, Sister Beverly Hurt passed away on last Saturday. There is a memorial service here at the church tomorrow at 5